Hashtag someone was living in her house. Without her knowing. The first time Megan noticed something was wrong, it was so small she almost convinced herself she'd imagined it. A coffee mug in the sink she didn't remember using. The living room throw pillow on the wrong end of the couch. Her daughter's favorite stuffed rabbit found in the hallway instead of her bedroom. But when she discovered the hidden camera in her bathroom vent, she realized the truth was far more terrifying than anything she could have imagined. If you stay until the end of this story, you'll discover how one single mother's nightmare became an unexpected journey of strength, community, and healing that changed not just her life, but the lives of countless others. If this story resonates with you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps bring more stories of resilience and triumph to light, especially those highlighting the unique challenges and strengths of single parents. Megan Collins had mastered the art of doing three things simultaneously. At 34, with a 7-year-old daughter and a mortgage that seemed to grow each month despite her payments, multitasking wasn't a skill, it was survival. Tonight, she was stirring pasta on the stove while helping Lily with her math homework and listening to a work voicemail on speaker about tomorrow's presentation. So if Jenny has 7 apples and gives away 3, how many does she have left? Megan asked, tasting the sauce and adding a pinch more salt. 4. Lily answered, her pencil moving across the paper with determination. Her dark curls fell across her forehead as she hunched over her worksheet at the kitchen table. Good job, sweetie. Megan smiled, turning down the heat on the stove. 5 more problems and then dinner. As she drained the pasta in the sink, steam rising around her tired face, Megan noticed something odd. The dish towel, the blue one with white stripes that her mother had given her last Christmas, was folded differently than how she always folded it. Instead of in thirds, it was folded in half. She paused, water dripping from the colander. Had she folded it differently this morning? She couldn't remember. Between getting Lily ready for school, preparing for her presentation, and dealing with the plumber who'd finally come to fix the leaky bathroom faucet, the morning had been chaos. "Mommy, the water's going to get cold," Lily said, not looking up from her homework. "Right, sorry." Megan shook off the strange feeling and returned to dinner preparations. Later that night, after tucking Lily into bed with a story and a kiss, Megan settled onto the couch with her laptop to finish her presentation. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak and groan of the old Victorian home they'd moved into 6 months ago. It was too big for just the two of them, but after the divorce, Megan had wanted a fresh start away from the apartment she'd shared with David. The house had been a foreclosure, a steal, her realtor had assured her, needing only cosmetic updates that Megan was slowly tackling on weekends. As she worked, Megan felt a draft. She looked up, frowning. The window behind her was closed, but she could have sworn she felt cold air on the back of her neck. She rubbed her arms, suddenly aware of goosebumps. The old house had its quirks, drafty windows, creaking floors, a basement door that wouldn't stay latched, but this felt different somehow. She got up to check the thermostat in the hallway. As she passed the kitchen, she noticed the dish towel again. Now it was hanging from the oven handle instead of on the towel rack where she always kept it. Megan stopped, staring at it. Had Lily moved it? But Lily had been in bed for over an hour. "You're being ridiculous," she muttered to herself. "You moved it and forgot." But as she turned to go back to the living room, she noticed something else. The fruit bowl on the counter had been rearranged. The apples were now on top of the bananas, when she distinctly remembered placing the bananas on top because they were getting too ripe. A chill ran through her that had nothing to do with the draft. "Hello?" she called out, feeling foolish even as she did so. "Is someone here?" Silence answered her. Of course there was no one there. Who would be in her house? She was just tired, that's all. Stress and exhaustion were making her paranoid. Still, she found herself checking all the doors and windows before returning to her work. Everything was locked tight. She was being silly. The next morning, Megan woke to the sound of Lily's laughter. She blinked, disoriented, and looked at the clock, 6:45 a.m. Early for Lily to be up on a school day. She found her daughter in the kitchen, already dressed in her school uniform, eating cereal at the table. "You're up early, sweetie," Megan said, yawning. "Mr. Whiskers woke me up," Lily said between spoonfuls of cereal. Megan frowned. Mr. Whiskers was Lily's stuffed rabbit, not a real pet. "What do you mean?" "He was making noise in my closet," Lily said matter-of-factly. "I think he was playing hide and seek." A cold feeling settled in Megan's stomach. "In your closet?" Lily nodded. "But when I looked, he wasn't there. Then I found him under my bed." Megan tried to keep her voice casual. "Did you put him under your bed last night?" Lily shook her head. "No, he was sleeping next to me. But it's okay, Mommy. He likes to play games." After dropping Lily off at school, Megan couldn't shake the uneasiness that had settled over her. Instead of going straight to work, she drove back home. She told herself she was being paranoid, that there was a logical explanation for everything, but she needed to check. The house was quiet when she entered, exactly as she'd left it. She went to Lily's room first, opening the closet door slowly. Nothing seemed out of place, just Lily's clothes hanging neatly and a few toys on the shelf. She checked under the bed. Nothing but a few dust bunnies and a forgotten sock. Feeling slightly reassured but still uneasy, Megan did a walkthrough of the entire house. Everything seemed normal until she reached the bathroom. The plumber had fixed the leaky faucet yesterday, but now she noticed the medicine cabinet was slightly ajar. She was certain she'd closed it that morning. Opening it fully, she scanned the contents. Her prescription for anxiety medication, rarely used but kept for emergencies, seemed to have fewer pills than she remembered. But she couldn't be sure, she hadn't counted them recently. As she closed the cabinet, she caught a glimpse of something in the reflection. A small dark spot on the ceiling vent behind her. She turned, looking up at it. The vent cover seemed slightly crooked. Standing on the edge of the bathtub, Megan reached up and carefully removed the vent cover. What she found inside made her blood run cold. A small camera, no bigger than a lipstick tube, was nestled inside the vent, its lens pointed directly at the shower. Megan nearly fell as she scrambled off the bathtub edge, her heart pounding. Someone had been watching her. Watching Lily. For how long? Days? Weeks? With shaking hands, she called the police. Officer Jenkins was kind but not particularly alarmed. "Unfortunately, we see this kind of thing more often than you'd think," he said, bagging the camera as evidence. "Ex-husbands, disgruntled boyfriends, sometimes professional stalkers. But I've been divorced for 2 years," Megan said. "And David lives in Seattle now. He hasn't even visited in months." The officer nodded, making notes. "What about boyfriends? Anyone you've dated recently who might have had access to your home?" Megan shook her head. Between work and raising Lily, dating had been the last thing on her mind. Maintenance workers? Repairmen? Anyone who's been in the house lately? "Just the plumber yesterday," Megan said. "But the camera looks like it's been there longer than that." Officer Jenkins frowned. "We'll dust for prints, but these cameras can be purchased online easily. They're wireless, battery-operated. Someone could have placed it there months ago." The thought made Megan feel ill. "What about the other things I mentioned? The items being moved around? Could be connected, could be coincidence," he said. "We'll do a thorough check of the house, but I recommend you change all your locks and consider installing a security system." After the police left, having found no other cameras or signs of forced entry, Megan called her boss to take a personal day. Then she called a locksmith. By afternoon, she had new locks on all doors and windows, and an appointment for a security system installation the next day. She picked Lily up from school early, making up an excuse about a doctor's appointment. "Are we sick, Mommy?" Lily asked as they drove home. "No, sweetie," Megan said, forcing a smile. "Just a checkup." She couldn't bring herself to tell Lily the truth. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that someone might have been watching them, might have been in their home while they slept? That night, after Lily was asleep, Megan sat in the living room with all the lights on, jumping at every creak and groan of the old house. She'd checked every closet, under every bed, behind every door. She'd even looked in the attic, though the pull-down stairs were stiff with disuse and covered in dust, clearly untouched for months. The basement was the only place she hadn't thoroughly checked. It was unfinished, with a dirt floor in some areas and crumbling concrete in others. She'd been down there only a few times since moving in, mainly to check the furnace or water heater. The thought of going down there now, alone in the dark, made her skin crawl. But she needed to know. Needed to be sure. Armed with a flashlight and her phone ready to dial 911, Megan descended the basement stairs. Each step creaked under her weight, the sound echoing in the darkness. At the bottom, she swept her flashlight across the space. Old shelves lined one wall, holding paint cans and tools left by the previous owners. The furnace hummed in the corner. Everything seemed normal. Then her light caught something on the far wall. A stack of cardboard boxes she didn't recognize. Moving closer, she saw they were arranged in a sort of makeshift wall, creating a small alcove in the corner of the basement. Her heart pounding, Megan moved one of the boxes aside. Behind the wall of boxes was a small space, no more than 6 feet by 6 feet. And in that space was a sleeping bag, a backpack, and several empty food wrappers. Someone had been living in her basement. Megan backed away, nearly tripping over her own feet in her haste. She ran up the stairs, locked the basement door, and called 911 again. This time, the police response was immediate and thorough. 3 patrol cars arrived within minutes, officers searching the house from top to bottom. But whoever had been living in the basement was gone. "The sleeping bag is still warm," one officer reported. "They can't have been gone long." The backpack contained clothes, more food wrappers, and a notebook filled with what appeared to be observations. Times when Megan left for work. When she returned. When Lily went to school. Their routines, documented in meticulous detail. "We'll need to dust for prints, check for DNA," Officer Jenkins said, his tone much more serious than earlier. "Miss Collins, is there somewhere you and your daughter can stay tonight?" Megan nodded numbly. "My mother's. She's about an hour away. I recommend you go there now. Pack what you need for a few days. We'll be in touch." As Megan carried a still sleeping Lily to the car, wrapped in her favorite blanket, she couldn't stop shaking. Someone had been living in her house, watching her and her daughter, for who knows how long. And they were still out there. The drive to her mother's house was a blur. Megan kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone following them. By the time they arrived, it was nearly midnight. Patricia Collins, a silver-haired woman in her 60s with Megan's same determined chin, opened the door in her bathrobe, her face creased with worry. "Megan, what on earth?" "Mom, I'm sorry it's so late," Megan said, her voice breaking. "Can we stay for a few days?" Patricia took one look at her daughter's face and stepped aside. "Of course. Come in, come in. I'll make up the guest room." Once Lily was settled in the guest bed, still miraculously asleep despite the upheaval, Megan collapsed at her mother's kitchen table and told her everything. Patricia listened without interrupting, her face growing more concerned with each detail. When Megan finished, she reached across the table and squeezed her daughter's hand. "You're safe now," she said firmly. "Both of you. And you'll stay here as long as you need to." For the first time since finding the camera, Megan felt the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. They were safe. For now. The next morning, Detective Rivera called. They'd found fingerprints in the basement and on the camera that didn't match Megan's or Lily's. "We're running them through the system," she explained. "But I wanted to ask you about the previous owners of the house. Do you know anything about them?" Megan tried to remember what her realtor had told her. "Not much. It was a foreclosure. I think the family moved out of state after losing the house." "We're looking into that," Detective Rivera said. "Also, the notebook we found had entries dating back almost 3 months. That's how long we believe someone has been accessing your home." 3 months. Almost as long as they'd lived there. The thought made Megan feel violated all over again. "There's something else," the detective continued. "The writing suggests this person believed the house was still theirs. There are references to intruders and trespassers, meaning you and your daughter." A chill ran through Megan. "You think it's one of the previous owners?" "It's a possibility we're exploring. In the meantime, we've increased patrols in your neighborhood, and an officer will be stationed near your house for the next few days." After hanging up, Megan sat with her mother at the kitchen table, watching Lily draw pictures in the sunlit breakfast nook as if nothing had happened. "What am I going to do, Mom?" Megan whispered. "I can't go back there." Patricia squeezed her hand. "You don't have to decide anything right now. Stay here as long as you need." But Megan knew she couldn't hide at her mother's forever. She had a job, Lily had school, and most of their belongings were still at the house. Besides, she'd sunk every penny of her divorce settlement into the down payment. She couldn't afford to just walk away. That afternoon, while Lily napped, Megan searched online for information about the previous owners of her house. The foreclosure records were public, and she quickly found what she was looking for. The Millers, Robert, Angela, and their son, Thomas, had owned the house for 15 years before losing it to foreclosure. Robert had lost his job during the economic downturn, and according to a local news article Megan found, Angela had been diagnosed with cancer shortly after. Medical bills had piled up, and they'd fallen behind on their mortgage. The article included a photo of the family standing in front of the house, her house, looking happy and normal. Robert was tall with graying temples, Angela petite with a kind smile despite the headscarf that suggested chemotherapy. Between them stood Thomas, a lanky teenager with dark hair falling across his forehead. The article was dated 18 months ago. What had happened to them since? Where had they gone after losing their home? Further searching revealed an obituary for Angela Miller, who had passed away 6 months ago. The obituary mentioned she was survived by her husband Robert and son Thomas, but gave no address, only that services would be held in the neighboring town. Megan felt a pang of sympathy. To lose your home, then your wife and mother, it was tragic. But it didn't excuse what someone, possibly Robert or Thomas, had done. Her phone rang, startling her. It was Detective Rivera. "Ms. Collins, we've identified the fingerprints," she said without preamble. "They belong to Thomas Miller, age 19. He has no prior criminal record, but he was reported missing by his father 3 months ago." "Missing?" Megan echoed. "But he's been living in my basement." "It appears so. We've contacted his father, who's coming in to speak with us. He claims he had no idea where his son was." After hanging up, Megan sat in stunned silence. Thomas Miller, the teenager from the photo, had been living in her basement for months, watching her and Lily, documenting their movements. But